Welcome to the second edition of Smart Festival 2022. My name is Ralph Overbeck, and I'm delighted hosting the second edition of the festival with an incredible lineup of international artists. And in our next session, we're traveling to Belfast, meeting Francesca Biondi, who is the owner and curator of Gallery 545, with Rosie McGurran, giving us a preview of Rosie's upcoming solo exhibition. So, benvenuti, Francesca and Rosie.
And I would like to hand the stage over to the two of you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah. So, Ralph and guest, I'm going to introduce the exhibition briefly, and then we're going to show you a few works. We selected 3 works with Rosie to show you as a sneaky preview of the exhibition. We wanted to give you a very good insight into her work for the show, and then her work she has created over the past years as well, but without giving you too much, because we hope you will come and join the exhibition, join us again and see the exhibition when it's going to be online. The exhibition is going to be here at Blick Studios in Belfast, and also online between the Saturday 26th of March and Sunday the 10th of April. It's really a great opportunity for me to work with Rosie. As you heard, she's got really impressive history of her practice, and then she has a link with Italy. And we'll see that she was in Italy for a while for her residency at the British School of Rome, and we'll see how the Italy that she saw in art even influenced her work. So Rosie has produced an amazing new body of work over the past months, and I love her work. She's an extraordinary painter, and she creates original paintings, and they're so interesting for the subjects and the themes that she explores. Rosie takes inspiration from autobiographical elements and then the places where she lives, her 2 homes in Roundstone and Belfast. And but also she creates work out of her imagination, fantasy. Of course, there are some realistic elements, some references to Belfast, to Roundstone, but they are always suspended. The world that she creates are always suspended between reality and imagination. And there are amazing, fantastic creatures inhabiting our worlds, and the protagonists are actually women. And women are always portrayed as very strong, very confident people. And that's one of the really interesting elements of her work. And then we'll see that we're going to show you a few works and how she reinvents and revisits and reinvents some histories and taken from religion, pagan religion, and then Christian religion. Also, works have strong links with, I think, with fairy tales. They all have these fairy tale qualities. There's always a narrative in her works, and then her works always tell stories and invite the viewers to make their own stories, looking at the elements. But as I mentioned before, Rosie drew inspiration for her work from the places where she lives, Belfast and then Roundstone. But for this exhibition, the focus is very much on Belfast. So Rosie, I'm gonna pass the ball to you now, and then can you tell? We had a chat about how you started working on this new body of work. It was a residency for you, wasn't it? A residency in Belfast?
Yeah, it was the great pandemic residency that everybody's been on for the past 2 years. I think it's sort of, I was there, so from 2020, I mean, and finding yourself there, and I think we've talked about this before, about how I had a huge amount of time in my hands without deadlines and whatever, you know, and we nobody was sure when things were going to open up again or how things were going to open up again. So without deadlines and commitments, and with a lot of time in my hands, I started to go back on ideas. And because I was spent a lot of time walking around Belfast, and initially you're only allowed out for 1 hour. So it was like you were trying to soak up everything you could see. And then it became, it sort of, because I haven't lived there in so long for any meaningful length of time, it was like bits of your past became sort of reflected back, or memories occurred, or things took on new significance. And so these are all elements that have kind of crept into the work as such. And you know, hopefully, I mean, you know, if the pandemic had never happened, you know, would my work still be very, I mean, it still is very based in Connemara and Roundstone, but it certainly gave me an unexpected opportunity to explore, you know, where I'm actually from.
Yeah, and then you said you started looking at places and thinking about your life there, and then your connections there with the city, and then the people with fresh eyes, didn't you? Just to give you time to reflect. It was a period of introspection, wasn't it, for you?
Yes, it was. It was. I mean, I think, you know, obviously lockdown has had all different effects on people in different ways, and you know, as in a way, you know, it was the opportunity to go with fresh eyes, as one does on a residency when you're leaving all the baggage of your studio and your daily thought patterns, and you go somewhere completely different. So for me, it did have that quality. And I was saying to you yesterday, Francesca, how you know, all these good things came out of lockdown about Belfast. I mean, Kenneth Branagh wrote his screenplay about his childhood memories. So you know, I mean, it seems to have affected Belfast people in different ways.
Yes.
But I don't think I'll be winning an Oscar for mine. It's in a different genre. But it's certainly, you know, it's maybe a lot of my images are ambiguous as well. So I mean, there are aspects of things that you would recognize, you know, maybe not Harlan the Wolf and the City Hall.
Yeah. Let's just show some images then. Maybe it's easier. Would you be able to go to our website and screen and share my page? Because I don't seem to be able to do it from here today.
Okay, yeah, let me try and do that. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to gallery545.com.
Okay, just bear with me.
Yes.
Yes, we will travel to you, and then we can click on your gallery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are, and then gallery 545.
Yeah, great. And if you go to the exhibitions.
Okay, so we have
page just there at the top.
Exhibitions, yeah.
And if you that's Rosie's exhibition coming up. Yay. And then if you click on more. Okay. And then if you scroll down the page, there's an event telling everybody about you. Yes, if you can just stop on the first image. Yes, this time. Yes. So Rosie, yes, we're talking about your memories of Belfast, including your memories of your childhood, and I just would like to bring everybody's attention to this work. And yes, as I was saying before, Rosie always takes inspiration from autobiographical elements, but at the same time, you know, she creates her own world out of her own imagination. The protagonists of her works are very often women. So we have a child here, and she looks like a very happy, very confident child. As I was saying before, you know, Rosie revisits or reinvents fairy tales where instead of having girls quite vulnerable, always in need of some help, she creates these girls that are actually confident and they don't seem to be needed any help from anybody, and she's just happy and content. She's juggling her eggs here, and also, as I was saying before, Rosie revisits and reinvents some religious stories of characters and symbols. And egg, the egg is a symbol that we find in pagan religions as a symbol of fertility, and also we can find it in Christian iconography as the symbol of the resurrection of Christ. But this very serious symbol has been revisited here in a very playful way. She's actually juggling her eggs. But Rosie, we were talking about this, and this girl, having fun with her eggs, or the way controlling them. She seems that she's juggling, or maybe she's suspended. She's suspending her eggs up in the air. She seems to have some special powers. So can you add something else, Rosie? Your comments really are very important.
Yeah, well, I think, if you look in the sort of where her right hand is, there's the sort of remnants of a nest. So either she can be rescuing the eggs and putting them back in the nest, or she's stolen them from the nest. And I love the actual way that the eggs work around the hedge. That she could be thinking about them, and maybe the only one that is real is in her hand. There are many, many different meanings to take out of it. And also she's sort of sitting in what could be like the skirt of a big bouncy tutu thing. So it's like, all these references to Cinderella and being rescued and all these things. But this person is not waiting for any savior or salvation or anything. Everything is in her own hands.
Yes.
This sounds a bit idiotic, or not idiotic, actually. It's the references are there to so many ways that women are addressed in contemporary culture and in past cultures and in all the things that we've been taught and led to believe. And the world is in major shift at the moment, and even the thoughts of the image of Carrie Bradshaw sitting in her big massive dress waiting for Mr. Big to come and rescue her in Paris. It's like, come on, and all those images are beautiful, and the stories are the modern day fairy tales. But the thing that interests me is whenever I go into this idea of working and whatever, that it just takes on its own life. Because initially I'm attracted to paper and paint and color and stories, and then these things sort of work their way out of the act of applying these things to surfaces, and then the stories come through. But it's whatever the rolling narrative is in one of the many rolling narratives that go all at the same time that I'm thinking about. So yeah, that's how they come out.
And then something else I'd like to add to this painting here is just that you see this child with the hand up, with the rising hand, and she reminds me of the many paintings that we see in Christian churches, where you can find baby Jesus with his hand up, just the blessing child. And in this case, you revisited and subverted some, very classical and very well-known iconography, and with a woman's perspective. And then we're just looking here again at a new work with this girl in a boat, and it's called Looking for the Lost Hat. And again, we have a girl who's a protagonist of a new story. And then there are so many stories here of people at sea, but they're usually men. You have pirate stories, and of course you have so many stories even in literature and in many folk tales and fairy tales. But the protagonists really of these stories of people at sea are usually men. It's just that women wouldn't venture in the past on their own at the sea. And but here you have a girl, and then she seems again very happy, very confident, and she's having fun on the boat. And then it's actually, the atmosphere is very joyful, with all these different shades of red and purple. And then again, there's an autobiographical element as well. Is that right, Rosie? There's a reference maybe to your own journey.
Yeah, I think, that you could sort of infer that I have sort of paddled my own canoe, to use a phrase, as such. And, that the decisions I've made about where I work or the opportunities that I've taken have been based entirely on me. And also, this is a work that was an older work that I reworked as well. And it was initially, there may have been a reflection of the person in there, but she's and the sea also, which looks very pleasant, could actually turn very quickly. you know, so there are lots of symbols in there, and, you know, she is out in the middle of the bay. And actually in the west of Ireland, when I'd forgotten about this, but we had until now that there's, of course, the stories of Grace O'Malley, the pirate queen, who was a real person who was from this area, and who sailed and, you know, obviously was a pirate. So, I mean, that's a sort of a feeling of, you know, that these things wouldn't, I mean, this boat wouldn't be in any way fit for piracy. But anyhow, it's, yeah, I was very, it was another work that, you know, when in the lockdown, things give me patience to not reject works out of hand, or to go back and, you know, see something, you know, with the gift of time, to go back and look at something with, as you say, fresh eyes again, even looking back at my own work, never mind where I'm from. And, you know, even just to work with colors and whatever. But so the most original remaining part of this painting would be the actual figure in the boat. And I didn't work that up to the level of the rest of it, which is quite heavy paint in comparison. I mean, this is almost like a watercolor. And so it's, yeah, it is a reference to paddling one's own canoe, to independence, and to be in sort of as in charge of your own destiny as you possibly can be, because obviously life gets in the way of that too. So they're all different dichotomies within it.
Yes, it's such a beautiful painting. It's amazing, incredible subject, incredible colors, and it's so beautiful. And so we like to move down to the last painting. Yeah, it's untitled. Well, still untitled at the moment, because we still, the work for the exhibition is still work in progress. We're going to finalize all the titles at the end. That's the way I work with artists, that the way curators, artists work together. You know, sometimes you have already a new body of work, it's ready, and sometimes, you know, there are still some choices to be made at the end, titles to be think about, because titles are really very important, because it gives you the first clue really how to interpret the work, and then what the intentions of the artist were. Of course, all artworks are open to interpretations anyway, and then you can make your own. And especially this one, you know, it's could be it's open. It could be open to so many interpretations. You have a tableau.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a tableau is a composition that you often use in your paintings, is that right, Rosie? Because they always have this theatrical quality. Then in this case, you have this group of women, and then they could be together in the same story, happen at the same time, or maybe they look like they are maybe women at different stages of their lives, the same woman or different one. Or maybe it's just the same woman just going through different stages of her life, and then this tableau reminds me very much of the tableau tableaus where you have and another tableaus where you can have the story of a person in, you know, represented in different scenes. And there's here. Yeah, at the Delight Love Centered, and she's really taking the stage, and with her hand is with her rose hand. Again, she's holding something, we don't know what it is, but she's definitely drawing attention of the spectator. And then all these women are here by the shore, but there are some elements of a landscape at the back, and then there's a church, and yes, I recognize here the St. John's Church here in Belfast. And yes, so again, Rosie revisits, reinvents stories with while drawing inspiration from religion, and also from fairy tales and autobiographical elements. So Rosie, I'll leave you to make some more comments. Yes, about this.
Yeah, I mean, the painting sort of arrived from the figure, the sort of main figure. And I was sort of fiddling around with different ideas, and I decided to leave them all there without going back over and obliterating anything. And so it is ambiguous in that she could be pulling, you know, a sheet up around herself, or she could be pulling the tablecloth off a table, you know, that great trick that you see, and everything stays on the table as it was. And you know, the cloud could be a blind, you know, she'd be pulling down a blind with the other arm, or that could be somebody else's arm. But the church itself in the background is quite close to where you and I both live in Belfast. And during the lockdown, it sort of was like my daily art show. You know, I've been walking past it my whole life, and I've never actually been inside it. I've been into the church hall, but I haven't been inside the church. And when I walked past it, the weather was really good and the light was beautiful. And I started to notice just how beautifully made it was. And, you know, the Belfast is full of all these absolutely gorgeous churches. And in fact, so many churches, and you would think it was the holiest place on the planet. And that everybody would be very calm and all that sort of stuff. But I really got into looking at it, and it felt like a protector, you know, that when I was sitting in the back garden, it was there, or I went for a walk, it was there. And if I was within the radius of that church, I felt very safe. And I mean, this is another drawing that sort of painting that sort of came out of different things coming together. Not entirely sure what it means right now, but I think there's an aspect of the turmoil of the Belfast I was born into, and finding this sort of a calmness and serenity. You know, that the place is very, very different in lots of ways now. And the figures are just, the figures sort of appear as protectors, as sentinels, as, you know, the one to the right is upside down. And I was saying to you about how I used to, when I was in Rome, I used to walk home via the Piazza del Popolo and visit the Caravaggio paintings, one of which was St. Peter being crucified upside down. And I had this big drawing that I made in Rome. And then I was, you know, I actually dragged that out in the studio and was looking at it before lockdown. And then this is a very recent piece, and the figure, the upside down figure in the corner, is maybe a reference to walks and journeys that I have made and things that I've picked up on. It's, you know, it's, I remember everything, forget very little, except I can't remember the names of stuff or important information, but visually I'll remember anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I'm very happy with this piece as being part of the show, and an example of what's coming when we open the show.
Yes, and then Rosie, you were saying, you mentioned briefly the how you work on different paintings, and you work on your paintings very instinctively. Is that right? There isn't really a plan, and then you can work on different paintings at the same time, adding new elements in one and then move it to another. Would you like to tell more about this?
Yeah, I would have practically the entire house here has now become a studio. I'm actually in Connemara right now as well, so this is where my main studio is, and I have like a big one. It seemed big when I got here. When I built the studio, it seemed big, but now it became smaller because the work became bigger. And so I've all these like huge canvases out there, and then at this room inside the house that has become like the drawing studio. So it's literally the drawing room, and this is where I would use mostly watercolors, pens, and whatever. So I have around me right now, oh gosh, maybe about 30 pieces, and that's just the ones I can see. And you can see behind me is my little wall of reference. Can you see the plastic house and my dollies and everything? Now, my entire house is covered in stuff like that. A lot of these things are references, they have significance. I like to construct these things as part of my tableau as such. But the yeah, so I do work on a lot of things at one time. So, but then when I concentrate on finishing a piece, that'll be exclusive time for that. But I will go from one to the next, from one to the next. And sometimes I think, particularly when you're working on paper, I think you need to let things settle down, and you need to let them dry. Whereas on the canvas, that work can be very immediate, and it can be very, you know, involved in sort of the action of painting. And sometimes with canvas, it'll be more the exploration will be done on the paperwork. It's like Stanley Spencer, the British artist, he would reference the pub in his village in Cookham, that they had a sign saying all fighting to be done by 11 p.m. And his idea was that all the fighting would be done by drawing before he attempted to canvas. So maybe this is my attempt at some way bringing order into my practice, and the fighting is being done on the paper, where I'm like a euphemism for the peace process of Northern Ireland, you know, and all that stuff will be done by the time I finish the big canvases at the back. So
yes, you're experimenting art. You're bringing, you know, different mediums together on paper. Sometimes you use oil, sometimes you use watercolors, and yes. So, and then Rosie, you always refer to your years in Belfast during the Troubles, and then I know that many artists explore the Troubles as subjects in their own works, and then while you said that your life in Belfast had an influence of the subjects or your works, you are not exploring the Troubles at all, not at least directly. And then you, why is that? You seem to found like a magic world where you can just retreat and have some peace.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, it's everybody who lived there has a very different experience. So my experience is going to be slightly different from somebody who grew up on, you know, on the peace line. You know, I mean, I grew up in the leafy suburbs of South Belfast. So, I mean, but at the same time, it didn't not affect us. And, you know, people who say, oh, that didn't affect us, they're absolute liars. And, you know, I always repeat that, but that, never mind. I felt that having a front row seat at the event was enough, you know. I constantly, always wanted to run, not necessarily from my family or the people I care about, but from the situation, as they say in Belfast. And to me, the West of Ireland, when I first visited here at 19, offered this magical world of gosh, this isn't going on here. The other thing is about Roundstone has traditionally been a place where painters from the north, from Ulster, came to work.
Yes, that's
so
right.
as once you start moving west and you go down a bit, this is as far as you go, you know, and the light is magnificent. The light is so different. Also Roundstone, when it was first populated, there were people from Ulster who came here to work, and this is in the 1800s, and settled in a part of the area that's known as Cuagla, which means Little Ulster in Irish.
Oh,
so,
right.
yeah. So
yes, many painters came there,
so people who actually just, you know, who came here to settle and raise families and do whatever. You know, so there's a tradition going way back. I think I'd like to know more about it. I certainly know about the art side of it.
Yeah.
But it's so there's been some sort of magnetic force pulling me here for a long time, and I'd been a visitor for 11 years before I actually decided to live here.
Yes, it's such an important place for you. It's not just a place where you live, it's a place that you draw inspiration from, you know, the stories, histories, and the folklore there, the fact that there's always been these artistic community living in that place. And then, of course, you know, there are always strong links between your present work and then your works that you created before, with more specific references to Roundstone. Ralph, if we have time, I would like to show one last work by Rosie. And then it's a work on a website. And then if you go to
on Rosie's website or on the
yes, I'm just gonna send you the link.
I have it. No, we'll travel quickly to Rosie.
Yes.
Let me share my
rosiemcgurran.com.
Share my screen. Now, just before I share my screen, Rosie, dare I ask, have you found your hat?
No. And it's more than one hat, it's 3.
3 hats. So you're still looking
No, my life has been, there have been very important moments in my life where hats that meant something to me have been lost. One was a beautiful purple peak cap that I bought in London when I was 19 that somebody nicked in the pub. Another was a lovely straw hat to keep the sun off my face in New York that flew from my head on a boat trip to Innishlaken, and more recently a beautiful orange and purple woolly hat that fell off my head when I was pulled under by a huge wave in the North Antrim coast last month. So thankfully the hat went off somewhere and is maybe on a beach in Scotland, and I survived with 5 of my friends, so we're very lucky. But it's one of the things in life, you know, you get, you know, things that you really like that disappear, and for one reason or the other. But that was just kind of where that title came from. Whether that means anything or has any massive significance to the actual resonance of the painting.
Rosie, I have one hat which I want to lose. I've been wanting to lose it for most of my life, but it keeps following me. You know,
oh really?
We have hats which we want to lose, but they, you know,
give it to me and I lose it.
That hat always, you know, reappears, and I'm like, okay. Okay, so Francesca.
Yes,
where
in Innishlaken.
Innishlaken, yeah.
Innishlaken, yes. If you scroll down, yeah, these are all the beautiful works. Yeah, hold on a second. A bit further up, there's a girl in the middle holding a mirror. If you go,
yes,
if you click on
left,
image, yes, if you click on this image here, yeah. And then, yeah, this was inspired by Innishlaken, and then you can see some elements that will be very familiar to the people living there. But again, there are some elements running, and some themes elements running across all Rosie's works. And again, you have a tableau, which is a composition that Rosie often uses, and then with the protagonists again are women. So there's a group of women and here by the shore, and again Rosie revisits and then reinvents religious stories and the fairy tales as well. It looks like a ceremony, but then, you know, instead of having a female or a male figure celebrating this ceremony, the figure here at the center looks like a priestess. Yeah, she's celebrating or a special occasion. And there are some religious symbols as well. Rosie, can you tell us more about this painting here? Some autobiographical elements as well, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the figures on the far piers, you know, there's 2 figures wearing pink coats, and there's one stamped beside a big fire. And that was a memory of a friend of mine, Mary, who passed away in 2015. And she'd been a sort of massive influence in my life, and you know, encouraged me to connect with Roundstone, that would be a whole other story for another day. So I made that painting, this painting, sort of thinking about what had happened, and the figures are all sort of gathering, as you say, in a sort of ceremonial fashion, and the woman is holding, the center is holding up a mirror with the statue is reflected backwards, with the village of Roundstone is reflected, but the painting is set on Innishlaken, so it's actually not geographically correct as such. The statue and everything on the table, it's like the table is set with things that nobody can really eat. You know, the eggs are not prepared. None of those things are there, but except for the statues pouring water. So they're all symbols of life and of life ending. And the little girl in the red dress, of course, is bringing the sheep's skull. And every year when I revisit the island in the spring and summer, you find that the casualties of winter are there, all the skulls of the sheep and whatever who fell over, who didn't make it through the storms. And then, you know, there are other figures making things, doing things. And the actual statue is quite important because it belonged to 2 people who lived in Roundstone called Tim and Mairead Robinson. And I drew this, I mean, I made this piece in 2016, and the statue was in their house. So the actual mirror was the mirror that reflected the statue in their home, the way it sat. And I was fascinated by that. And the statue was involved in so many paintings. And they actually left it to me, and they both passed away within weeks of each other 2 years ago. And they they left me the statue, so it now has the view of my backyard instead of the view of the 12 Bends. But it's a very precious and meaningful statue called Evangeline, who Evangeline gave water to soldiers. She was a life giver. So there's all different types of images and references to giving life, and to not just giving life, but giving inspiration, you know. So
yes, symbols used in religion and folk tales, and mythology as well. You have again, you know, the lamb, which is very often referred to as the Lamb of God when we refer to Jesus Christ. So it could be goats, which could found in religious stories with more negative connotations. But there are so many different symbols, and then I know you intended to give them some meanings, but again, viewers can put all these elements together to make their own stories. And that's so fascinating and open to interpretations, open to make your own stories.
Yes.
Francesca, exactly. You know, this is what I find myself. I lose myself in Rosie's paintings, and I think there's where we can find our own stories.
Yes.
Which is quite an incredible journey, and we've taken Rosie into the Meta Biennale. I mean, I love, of course, we all want to be in true reality with your gallery in Belfast, but during the pandemic, we're also in the virtual reality. You know, we're kind of experimenting. And what I've noticed in Rosie's room in the exhibition is when visitors come in, you know, through the metaverse, they have headsets and they walk around. There are a lot of visitors just standing in really close, and I can really see them sort of immersing themselves into stories, you know, maybe into their own childhood stories. So, and I'm sure you've experienced that as a curator with Rosie's work in your own exhibition and gallery.
Yes, they're so extraordinary, these paintings, and you can lose yourself in them, and you can find different elements that resonate with you and your life and your experience, and other, you know, myths and legends and religious stories that, you know. I'm having lots of fun actually looking at Rosie's paintings. I always find something new that reminds me of my own culture, and I also always try to link my life experience and my culture here in Italy with Rosie's life, and then her own experience of Italian culture, and then the folk tales and other stories in Ireland. That's so fascinating.
And it's different stories. I mean, I've seen myself sort of revisiting Rosie's work several times, and then new stories appear. So, yeah. So, Francesca, Rosie, thank you so much for sharing yourselves so beautifully. And it's a real pleasure. And you know, the theme of the second edition festival, one of the themes is creative confluence, because we had the first session with Adi, Adassi, and Ricardo, where Adi said, "Be like water, my friend," you know, to Ricardo, dancing, and Adi's paintbrushes following him. So we have the sort of creative confluence, and what a confluence of you as the curator with your exhibition, curating Rosie's work in the next upcoming solar exhibition. And so I'm kind of jealous that I'm on the wrong side of the Atlantic at the moment, because I would love to just parachute myself into Belfast.
Yes, so we would love to have you here.
But when does the exhibition start again?
Yes, it's between the Saturday 26th of March until Sunday the 10th of April, and that's going to be online, gallery545.com, and then it's going to be here at the exhibition space in Malone Road, Belfast, number 51, and then we're going to take some pictures, so you'll be able to see the artworks in the space as well.
Yeah, and I've checked on Google Maps. Your gallery is in a beautiful location.
Yes. I like historical buildings. Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much, and thank you for giving up your time, because I know it's been very busy for both of you. in preparation for the solo exhibition.
Thank you.
Okay, so ciao, arrivederci.
Ciao, ciao. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Bye.
ciao, ciao.